What if I told you that hidden across America are classic Harley-Davidsons? Machines that not only defined freedom on two wheels, but also changed the course of motorcycle history. From panheads with sidecars to shovelheads that carried a generation of riders, these aren't just bikes for sale. They're living legends waiting for their next chapter. Today, we're diving into 10 classic motorcycles for sale that changed Harley-Davidson history. And trust me, you'll want to see what we uncovered. Let's start strong. A 1971 Electra Glide that's both surprisingly original and recently refreshed. This one's red, tidy, and it's calling your name if you love that classic shovelhead vibe. This Electra Glide is listed for £9,500 out of Bicester, showing 18,000 kilometers on the clock. That's about 11,185 miles. It's a manual, shovelhead-era Electra Glide, and by the seller's account, it's really clean and pretty original. Those are words collectors and riders both perk up for. The seller notes a recent top-end rebuild, the kind of work you want handled right after a blown base gasket, so they've addressed the heart of the motor. New and upgraded parts include a coil, fresh HT leads, an S&S Super E carburetor, and an Andrews J-grind cam. The ignition side has been sorted too, with new points and condenser. Taken together, those upgrades improve starting, throttle response, and mid-range punch, exactly the kind of sensible upgrades many owners fit to make a vintage Harley more usable on modern roads. Another nice detail, the bike comes with original boxes, according to the listing. That suggests the seller hung on to the parts and packaging that came with the bike, which collectors often value. Paired with the description of the bike as pretty original, this Electra Glide sounds like a balanced find. Enough freshness to ride confidently, but with a good dose of factory character left intact. The Electra Glide line began in the mid-1960s when Harley introduced Electric Start, a major comfort and usability upgrade. By 1971, we're squarely in the shovelhead era, which replaced the panhead and gave riders more power and reliability. The Electra Glide is the touring, long-distance expression of that evolution. Big tanks, wind protection, and the kind of presence that says, "I was built for the open road." For the buyer who wants a real, rideable classic, this one makes sense. It's been usefully refreshed, it still shows originality, and it sits at a price point that can attract both UK riders and international collectors. The S&S carb and Andrews cam show someone has aimed for reliability and stronger performance without going overboard into a full custom machine. In short, a tidy, well-cared-for 1971 Electra Glide, original-looking, mechanically sensible, and ready to be enjoyed on British lanes or shipped to a collector's stable. At £9,500, it's a solid example of a shovelhead Electra Glide that blends authenticity with practical upgrades. Bike number 2 was 1978 Harley-Davidson Sportster 1000. Offered for $10,995 in Denison, Texas. This one's listed at $10,995 out of Denison, Texas, offered by a dealer. Finished in black, it's a manual transmission chopper with that unmistakable raw Sportster attitude. The seller says it runs great, starts first kick, and is ready to ride. That's exactly what you want to hear if you're looking at an Ironhead. Here's where it gets interesting. This Ironhead engine has been set into a shovelhead frame with a 4-speed transmission. That kind of swap was a fairly common practice back in the day among custom builders, mixing and matching Harley components to get the look and stance they wanted. What you get here is a stripped-down, purpose-built chopper that captures the DIY spirit of the 1970s. The Sportster Ironhead engine ran from 1957 up until 1985, and it carved out its own reputation as Harley's smaller, sportier, but still tough-as-nails option. By the late 1970s, the Sportster had become a favorite among customizers because the Ironhead motor was compact, powerful for its size, and had that distinctive sound and shake that Harley guys loved. In chopper culture, Ironheads were often the canvas, lightweight enough to strip down, but still carrying the same DNA as the big twins. This 1978 Sportster chopper is a great reminder of that era. Kickstart only, minimalist lines, and just enough chrome and stance to make it turn heads. It's not a museum piece. This is the kind of Harley you actually get on, fire up, and ride down back roads with a grin on your face. And the fact it starts first kick every time, that alone is worth its weight in gold for anyone who's spent time around old ironheads. So if you're after a bike that's pure 1970s chopper energy, an ironhead with the heart of a Sportster and the frame of a Shovelhead, this 1978 Sportster 1000 chopper from Texas is a clean reminder that sometimes simple, stripped-down machines are the most fun. Price is set at $10,995, and for a rider who wants character over polish, this one's ready to roll. All right, coming in at number 3, we've got a serious piece of Harley history. A 1960 Panhead chopper, and this one looks like it rolled straight out of the golden era of custom bikes. This Panhead is priced at $14,995, offered by a dealer in Denison, Texas. It's running a manual transmission, finished in brown, and comes with some very cool period-correct touches. The heart of it is an 88 cubic inch Panhead motor paired to a 4-speed, and according to the seller, it runs strong. It's also been fitted with a 16-over wide glide front end, brand new tires, fresh bearings, and even a Joe Hunt magneto for that old school spark. In other words, it's a chopper with bite. This isn't a factory stock survivor. This is a full-blown custom, the kind of bike that defines the Panhead chopper scene. Long forks up front, slimmed down stance, and an unmistakable attitude. It's built to ride, but also to tell a story every time you park it. The Panhead motor ran from 1948 through 1965, and it's easily one of the most iconic Harley engines of all time. Known for its aluminum heads with pan-shaped rocker covers, hence the nickname, it was a huge leap forward in both performance and reliability over the knucklehead that came before it. By 1960, the Panhead was powering the Electra Glide and other big twin Harleys, making it the backbone of American cruising culture. But in the chopper world, Panheads took on a life of their own. Builders loved the smooth power delivery and the classic lines of that motor, which looked just right sitting between a stretched frame and long front end. This particular bike captures that spirit perfectly. The 16-over wide glide fork gives it that long, low silhouette. The Joe Hunt magneto is a favorite among old-school builders, eliminating the battery and giving a raw, mechanical, kickstart-only vibe. Paired with fresh tires and rebuilt components, this machine is both road-ready and dripping with character. So if you're after a slice of authentic 1960s Harley culture, not a showroom piece, but a true Panhead chopper, this one checks all the boxes. It's rare, it's ready to ride, and at $14,995, it's a tempting doorway into the world of vintage Harley customs. At number 4, we've got a big classic from the AMF years, a 1977 Harley-Davidson Electra Glide FLH 1200. This is the kind of bike that defined long-distance American touring in the late 70s, and this one comes in beautifully preserved condition. This machine is listed at $12,500, offered out of Freehold, New Jersey. It's finished in white, runs a 4-speed transmission, and according to the seller, it's basically untouched, an unmolested Harley that still runs great. It just had a fresh service, a new battery, and comes with both the owner's manual and a service manual included. Haggerty Insurance has appraised its value at $19,600, so the asking price of $12,500 is definitely an interesting figure. The seller describes it as ready to ride, and that's what you want to hear with an old touring bike like this. Nothing hacked up, no wild customization, just a clean, classic Electra Glide from a period when Harley was pushing through tough times under AMF ownership, yet still building bikes that have stood the test of time. The late 1970s were an interesting chapter for Harley-Davidson. AMF had taken control in 1969, And while quality control issues have often been highlighted, the truth is many of these bikes, like this 1977 FLH Electra Glide, have survived decades and are still running strong. The FLH 1200 was powered by the Shovelhead engine, a motor that carried Harley through the 1960s, 70s, and early 1980s. Riders loved it for its torque, its distinctive sound, and the way it could pull mile after mile on the open highway. Today, these late 70s Electra Glides are gaining appreciation. Collectors are realizing that the AMF-era bikes, once overlooked, actually represent an important moment in Harley history, and they ride every bit as good as they look. With original-style paint, manuals included, and a clean bill of health, this 1977 Electra Glide FLH 1200 stands as both a collectible and a usable classic. So, if you're looking for a true American touring icon that bridges the gap between Harley's old-school roots and its modern touring machines, this 1977 Electra Glide FLH 1200 is a perfect candidate. Listed at $12,500, it's ready to fire up and hit the highway the way it was built to do almost 50 years ago. At number 5, we've got something really unusual. A 1969 Harley-Davidson custom build with deep roots in Harley history. This one isn't your everyday Shovelhead or Panhead. It's a bike that mixes heritage with a bit of experimentation. This machine is priced at $7,500, located in Byron Center, Michigan. It shows about 46,888 miles on the clock and runs a manual transmission. The seller describes it as a 1969 GE Flatty, which makes it especially intriguing and rare. He even notes that this one was the 6th off the assembly line, carrying a serial number starting at 1006. The chassis itself dates back to the 1940s, while the motor is a GE electric start flathead engine paired to a 3-speed transmission with reverse. That's right, reverse gear on a Harley. Pretty wild, right? The bike has good patina, meaning it's been around and has the scars to prove it. But according to the seller, it wouldn't take much to get it back on the road. Right now, it's more of a project piece, and the owner has even hinted that if it doesn't sell, he may part it out since the engine alone is worth serious money. That's the reality with rare Harleys. Sometimes the components carry as much, if not more value than the complete machine. The flathead engine dates back to the 1920s, and by the post-war years, it was considered old tech compared to the knucklehead and panhead. But Harley kept building flathead-powered bikes like the Sidecar and GE models for very specific markets: police, utility, and even international exports. What makes this 1969 example so fascinating is that it represents one of the last years Harley was still producing flathead-powered machines. Most riders in '69 were looking at Shovelheads and Sportsters, so a GE Flatty with electric start and reverse gear was something entirely different. That makes this bike both historically significant and mechanically oddball in the best way. This isn't a showroom collector's piece. This is for someone who wants a genuine slice of Harley history, quirks and all. The reverse gear, the unique GE flathead engine, and the fact that it's one of the very first off the line in '69 give it real collector's appeal. Whether someone restores it, rides it, or parts it out, it's a conversation starter that represents a chapter of Harley most people have forgotten. So if you're into rare Harley-Davidsons that fall outside the mainstream, this 1969 custom flathead GE from Michigan is about as unique as it gets. At $7,500, it's a doorway into one of the strangest but most fascinating corners of Harley-Davidson history. From Canton, Ohio, comes a rider's machine that blends reliability with classic Harley style. A 1980 FXEF Super Glide. Priced at just $6,250, this one is ready to hit the road today. The seller describes it as running great and ready to ride anywhere. With brand new tires, fresh fluids, and a new battery, the essentials are already taken care of. While the paint and pipes are not original, they're clean and presentable, and everything else is true to the factory setup. The tachometer bounces a little, but the speedometer is spot on and the motor fires up strong. For someone looking for a solid Shovelhead-era Harley without the headaches, this is a serious contender. The FXEF, better known as the Super Glide, holds a special place in Harley-Davidson's history. Introduced in the early 70s, it was Willie G. Davidson's answer to a younger generation of riders who wanted a factory custom straight out of the showroom. By 1980, the FXEF was riding the wave of Harley's Shovelhead era, offering a blend of big twin power with leaner, sportier styling compared to the bulkier FL touring bikes. This example reflects that spirit perfectly. Not a museum piece, but a bike that begs to be ridden. For riders chasing the raw mechanical feel of the Shovelhead years, without breaking the bank, this Super Glide is a time capsule from an era when Harley was redefining itself. Now, here's something you don't see every day: a 1987 Electra Glide Classic, offered out of Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania for just $3,750. And what makes this one fascinating isn't just the price, but the story behind it. This machine sat in hibernation for more than 20 years, parked away, waiting for a second chance at the open road. The seller just recommissioned it, bringing this 80 cubic inch V-twin back to life. They rebuilt the original carburetor, refreshed the starter and brake systems, fitted new tires, a new starter solenoid, and even rebuilt the forks with progressive springs. The result? A bike that may be pushing 40 years old, but it runs like new, firing up, stopping, riding, and handling exactly as it should. Now, the seller's pretty candid. They'll tell you straight up, some things don't work. They don't say exactly what, but they make it clear. If you're buying an old Harley, you accept a bit of character. Still, what matters most is there: a strong-running Shovelhead-based 1340cc engine, a solid 5-speed transmission, and the unmistakable Electra Glide silhouette with its frame-mounted fairing. Stepping back, 1987 was an important year for Harley-Davidson. This was just a few years after the famous buyback from AMF in 1981, when Harley reclaimed its identity and began building bikes that would restore the brand's reputation. By the mid to late 80s, the Electra Glide FLHS was already cemented as the king of long-distance touring. It didn't come with creature comforts like modern-day touring bikes. No power brakes, no power steering, no air conditioning, no defrosters. But that's exactly the point. It was raw, mechanical, and unfiltered, built for riders who wanted to feel every beat of that Evolution engine. Speaking of which, the Evolution motor itself had become Harley's saving grace. Introduced in 1984, it solved so many of the oil leaks and reliability issues of the earlier Shovelheads. By '87, riders were starting to trust Harley again, and the Electra Glide FLHS was right in the middle of that renaissance. So, when you look at this $3,750 Electra Glide, you're not just seeing a used touring bike, you're looking at a snapshot of Harley's comeback era, a time when the company had to prove itself all over again, and bikes like this carried the weight of that responsibility down America's highways. Next up, we've got a true classic from the late 80s, a 1988 Harley-Davidson Heritage offered in Louisville, Kentucky with an asking price of $7,500. This one comes in sleek black paint, equipped with those large leather saddlebags, an air horn, a fresh battery, and a recent oil change. The seller describes it as being in excellent condition, ready to ride, ready to show, or maybe even both. Now, the Heritage line holds a very special place in Harley history. By the late 1980s, Harley-Davidson was thriving again after years of struggle under AMF ownership. The introduction of the Evolution engine in 1984 gave Harley a new level of reliability, and the Heritage Softail, introduced in 1986, became one of the company's most important models. The Heritage was designed to blend classic styling with modern performance. Riders wanted a bike that looked like a throwback to Harley's golden era of the 1950s, but with the comfort, dependability, and handling of something contemporary. That's exactly what the Heritage delivered. Full of chrome, retro details like studded saddlebags, and a stance that echoed the Panhead and Knucklehead era. By 1988, the Heritage had already made its mark as a nostalgia machine, appealing to older riders who wanted to relive the look of the bikes they grew up with, as well as younger riders who were drawn to Harley's timeless design language. This was the bike that helped solidify the Softail as one of Harley's best-selling platforms, a tradition that continues decades later. So when you see this black '88 Heritage, complete with big leather bags and that unmistakable cruiser profile, you're looking at more than just a motorcycle. You're looking at one of the key models that carried Harley into the 1990s, a time when the brand was booming again and its heritage became one of its strongest selling points. Here we've got a 1977 Harley-Davidson Shovelhead, factory FLHS sport model, offered in Stanfield, North Carolina, with an asking price of $6,800. According to the seller, it's in good condition, runs and rides well, and they believe most of the paint is original, with the exception of the front fender. It was a one-owner bike until the previous rider passed away, and now it carries a clear North Carolina title. A few things need attention, like the headlight, taillight, and speedometer, but otherwise, this machine is road-ready and full of history. The Shovelhead engine, produced from 1966 through 1984, was Harley's workhorse for nearly 2 decades. By the mid-1970s, the Shovelhead had become iconic, known for its unique rocker box shape, giving it that shovel nickname. Riders loved its torque-heavy delivery, and despite the quirks of AMF-era Harley production, the Shovelhead earned a reputation as a true American cruiser engine. The FLHS Sport model was Harley's attempt to give riders a stripped-down touring bike. It had many of the bones of the full-dress Electra Glide, but with a slightly sportier setup, lighter, less chrome, and aimed at those who wanted the long-haul comfort without all the extras. For some, the FLHS was the perfect balance between tourer and cruiser. What makes the 1977 model especially significant is the timing. Harley was still under AMF ownership, and many enthusiasts consider bikes from this period to be survivors. Despite criticisms of the era's quality control, these machines that remain on the road today prove just how tough and adaptable the Shovelhead really was. So this particular '77 FLHS, with mostly original paint and a one-owner story, represents more than just a used Harley. It's a snapshot of an era when Harley was fighting to maintain its identity, and it shows how these bikes became symbols of freedom, individuality, and endurance on the open road. Here's something you don't see every day. A 1957 Harley-Davidson Panhead, complete with a steel-bodied sidecar, offered in Rock Hill, South Carolina for $6,500. This machine shows just 321 miles on the clock, comes with a manual transmission, a beautiful red paint finish, and includes all mounting hardware. The seller notes that it's in incredible condition and can even arrange delivery to Denton. The Panhead engine, produced from 1948 to 1965, is one of Harley's most legendary power plants. It got its nickname from the pan-shaped rocker covers, and it was known for both durability and smoother oil circulation compared to the knucklehead before it. By the mid-1950s, Panheads were powering Harley's most iconic touring machines, like the Duo Glide and later the Electra Glide. What makes this bike special isn't just the year or the motor, it's the sidecar. Sidecars were once a huge part of Harley-Davidson's history, especially before World War II and into the 1950s. They offered practicality for families, police departments, and even military use. A steel-bodied, mechanically braked sidecar like this one adds not only rarity, but also charm, as it transports you back to a time when motorcycles weren't just for solo rides, they were workhorses, family haulers, and adventure machines. The 1957 model year was also an important one in Harley history. It was the same year Harley introduced the Sportster, a bike that would go on to become one of their most enduring models. So while the world was just getting acquainted with the Sportster, bikes like this Panhead with a sidecar were carrying on the tradition of big twins and practical utility. Owning a 1957 Harley-Davidson with a factory-style sidecar is like holding a piece of rolling Americana. It represents an era when motorcycles were evolving into leisure machines but still had that rugged, all-purpose DNA. At $6,500, this setup isn't just a vintage Harley, it's a time capsule on 3 wheels. Every one of these machines tells a story of innovation, rebellion, and the timeless pursuit of freedom. From the rare Panheads and Knuckleheads to the Electra Glides that carried riders across America. These bikes are more than steel and chrome. their rolling history. Which of these classics would you take home, and why? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you love seeing these legendary motorcycles, don't forget to subscribe for more rides into Harley-Davidson's past. Until next time, keep the engines running and the spirit alive.